message for your champion.
Hello everyone and welcome to ZankCast, where I interview members of the Bey community and get to know a little bit about them and what goes on when they Beyblade. For this episode, we have a guest with over 1,000 subscribers, the 2019 Tag Team second runner-up, the number 3 ranked blader in the Philippines, number 8 Beytuber in Project 4 in Quezon City, 5-time zankye G4 champion, the one and true King of Belial, reigning, defending, undisputed zankye Tag Team Champion of the World, ladies and gentlemen, PapaBeyShow.
Orale vatos, what's happening?
So I want to thank you so much for being here today. So just want to ask,
I'm sorry, Mr.
start
Judge.
off.
I had to interrupt you
Sorry, go for it.
because if you listen closely, you can hear the PapaBeyniacs chanting his name.
That's all right. You on?
Finally, PapaBey has come back to the ZankCast.
All right. You already kind of did it, but just give an introduction to yourself for new viewers who are wondering about yourself.
Yeah, okay. I'm PapaBey. You know, I came from the mean streets of East LA. Yeah, I had a rough childhood. If you're asking me to share some stories,
No,
I'll gladly share.
you can if you want. I just meant like the YouTube channel. No, but go for it. I'm not here to stop.
Yeah, like I said, I came from the mean streets of East LA. I'm gonna tell a story dating back when I was 10 years old. I was in a park. I was minding my own business, and this guy casually walks up. He puts his hand in his pocket, gets a piece of gum, opens the wrapper, chews the gum, and then casually throws the wrapper on the ground. I had to see that. The guy broke the law. He publicly littered. I had to see that. You know? And there's another time. I was coming home from school. So I need to cross the street to get to the bus station. And then while I was crossing the street, I saw this guy. He was crossing the street, but not on the lines. He was publicly jaywalking, man. And I had to see, my young eyes had to see that. And there was a police officer standing beside him, but he didn't do anything. I had to see that.
Okay.
And, back then, my father barely made 100 grand. And we had a maid, but she only came in 3 times a week. So what about the other 4 days? Who's going to wash the dishes? The dishes won't wash themselves. The clothes won't go into the hamper by themselves. So I had to experience that as a kid. So that's where I'm from the mean streets of East LA. All right?
So in the origin of your Beyblade YouTube channel and what your Beyblade channel is about, feel free to just talk about it.
My YouTube channel, yeah. As you know, we have mall tournaments here in the Philippines every weekend. So one day, I was just casually walking around a toy store. And then I saw some people in a tournament playing Beyblades. Then I went near them and took a peek. And then I saw some of them playing spinning tops. Then I said, these jabronis are no match for me, man. I can easily beat them. So I started getting bays and acquiring them. And then, like I said, I was right. I beat all of them. That's why you got the champ right here. So that's how I started. Then to give an olive branch to some of the players, I started a YouTube channel and did some scientific things, and so they can to help them. because they're no match for me. I had to give them something, you know. So that's how it started.
So it's very generous of you to give them an opportunity to learn after they get beaten by you. It's very commendable because you're a very tough blader. Listen, we went over the stats. You listen, undisputed right now champion of soon to be the blading world. We gotta pay our respects. I think something very respectable is that, especially for competitive, actually, this is a fun fact. I really started to learn more about the stuff because you had a lot of your testing videos, because you did a very unique type of content. Because for Bay testing, nobody did. Not nobody did, like literally nobody, but like for YouTube videos, it was almost bare none. So a lot of times for part performance, your videos would get referenced because they did a very good job going over it, or even like techniques like balance tuning. So I think for your presence, you did a really good job on influencing competitive and helping getting people to the right direction, because I think that's something that is kind of lacking, because Beyblade's very important to know what you're doing. And I think you did very good informational content, so I actually wanted to thank you on just doing a good job on that before I even get to the questions.
Thanks. Okay. I appreciate that.
So I'm kind of a little bit curious now, because you're obviously in the Philippines and you have the WBBA. So
Yes,
for a
that's
viewer
right.
that's watching and just curious, could you just go over, kind of explain kind of briefly, what the WBBA is, how, like, what do the events work like? Because you have actually a very unique set of events for what you do, and like a rule set that you do in the videos. And I'm sure a lot of viewers are just curious on how you play the Beyblade game.
Yeah, the WBBA is the official rule set from TAKARA TOMY that is mostly implemented on, I think, Asian countries. I think Europe and the Americas are using are on HASBRO, so they're on using your WBO rule set. So there's a lot of differences actually in the two formats, but I don't think there's time to explain all of them. But basically, the WBBA right now is basically 5G on the DB stadium. That's what it's all about. It's stamina and stamina and more stamina.
So I was a little curious.
I tried using a tap, but
Oh yeah,
it just doesn't work.
I saw the videos. You got the WBO. I can't.
Yeah, so that's why I'm back to using stamina, because I tried, man, but it just doesn't work.
So on the topic of actually stadiums, because your area has gone from the original standard stadium and transitioned to the DB, so I'm a little bit curious on your thoughts between the two of them. Do you prefer one over the other? Are you okay with the new one? Because since you're in the area, you do a lot of competitive events. You have a lot more experience with that stadium on like serious competition, so you have a better perspective than, let's say, if I like or dislike the stadium.
Yeah, actually, right now we're using both. Standard on the eliminations, then from quarterfinals onwards, we use the DB. But really, I'm just, the amount of players we get, I'd be lucky if I get to use the standard stadium more than twice. So I'm really preparing for the DB stadium. So my insights, the standard stadium is quite good, but it could be better. And it's kind of small for the recent DBBU base, because it doesn't nerf attack. But yeah, as I mentioned earlier, the DB, it is what it is. We have to adapt. Okay? We can only use as I proven in the past couple of weeks when I shifted from using guilty on whatever driver, the combos are winning the stamina. So it just really proves that it's a stamina biased stadium. So
Fair.
that's it.
So I kind of just want to expand on the part you talked about with adapting, because I think that's a very important thing. I think the difference between what goes on the Asia region and here is that the Asia region is way better at adapting to whatever is new than, let's say, here. So, because you had a lot of experience with this, what would you recommend to new players that want to get into the game and want to try to adapt to what's presented to them?
Uh, there's no other way about it. They have to do their homework, and they have to test, and do more tests, and practice, and more practice, and join tournaments. And even if they lose, they gain valuable experience. There's no other way around it. There are part variations you have to test.
Yeah.
Mode variations, but
No, I was gonna say
actually, even my testing video is not really that accurate because it's just only me testing. As you know, it's different when there are really two people launching at good form and good power.
Yeah.
That's the real test.
Yeah, I would agree with that. I think testing in general just good for general results because obviously you can get so many results at home or with someone practicing, but like at a tournament event, how they use the combos can be slightly different from how you tested. So I always look at it as just like general idea, like master the Ebolas. Okay, generally it can do good against this, but it's always a good reference point to have it. And I absolutely agree with testing. I feel something that is very lacking in this generation, probably because I guess maybe not as advertised as hard, at least on the Western side, is just competitive and testing. So I want
and
to go on to the next. Sorry, what?
Sorry. Go ahead,
No,
please.
no. Okay, okay. I was just gonna ask because you've had a lot of experience with tournament and events. What are some memorable moments that you had? Because you've attended a lot of WBBA events, you got a lot on your belt. Listen, a champion. So I'm kind of curious if you
Right.
have any cool
Those
experiences.
are all true, by
with
the
them.
way. I'm sorry. Can you repeat that question?
Yeah, I was gonna say because you have a lot of experience on WBBA events. So I was kind of curious. What was your experience like with it? Anything fun at all, or no? Just talk about it.
Like I said, I've seen them all. I've been through hard times, so I have elite resolve. That's why all those events, I just breeze through them. I just beat them, and sometimes I feel I like to give them a chance. I intentionally lose, but I don't show it. I act like I really lost, but in truth, I let them beat me. That's what.
Okay, fair.
That's my experience. So,
So, since you've done the DB Stadium a lot more, are there any Beyblades that you really like using? Because I think even like the only attack type in the DB is like guilty, but it's not really on an attack driver.
that's right. I don't really have a favorite, but what I can tell you is everyone and their mothers here uses World on Drift, some form of disc. If you don't have World on Drift, you have a low chance of winning. Because
Oh,
World is just that good in spin equalizing and opposite spin, and we can do a spin change every round. So if you don't have that, you're a severe underdog. So I guess that's the favorite of that's like a default combo. And also the dynamite or wind bearing drift spam. Everyone and their mothers also use them. What can you do? It works.
right. No, I was surprised. I wasn't too sure if your area caught up on all the releases, and then I saw more of your recent stuff, and I saw. So I'm assuming you can correct me if I'm wrong, but like a 5G deck is like bearing drift, metal drift, maybe like zone dash plus E, or maybe like metal universe, right?
No, not really Metal Universe. More of Zone Dash plus Z.
Mm,
Yeah, some players used to use that on Guilty. It had some relative success, but overall, it's not really worth using it because Guilty is a poor spin equalizer. So we either have to KO your opponent or outspin them. I guess that, yeah. Basically, bearing drift, bearing high extent plus dash, drift, and metal drift, and zone dash plus Z. That's basically the Spamina City, Spamina City drivers.
no, No, that's right. That's kind of what I assumed. I mean, I'll ask, but I probably know what the answer is. But it is possible to KO in a DB stadium. On the events that you've been to, how many times? Okay, not how many times literally, but do you think it's very rare to get a KO at all? Do you think it's possible, or in the DB stadium?
Not really. Actually, I've especially on the junior, the 13, 12 and under kids. Again, they just launched Unga Bunga. I mean, some of their kids. It usually happens at lunch when it just hits the other bay, hits the other bay in a funny way and just goes straight to the pocket. But there's still lots of chaos in the DB. But it's more like lucky KOs, somewhat lucky. Unlike when in the standard stadium, you're really aiming for a KO when you're using a rubber driver. So it's more of a circumstantial KO. In my time, I used guilty on drift back early last year. I was having some moderate success with that,
No,
but
that's
eventually I got to give it up because it really is not that optimized.
no, that's good to know because eventually I gotta look at that stadium because here we mainly just use standard, and we finally started to allow DB for WBO events, and I think it's a good thing too. But one stadium I was actually wondering about because I know this stadium was released around like the worst time, and then after it just went straight into DB. But has you ever tried the Dash Stadium from Sparking, the blue one?
Yeah, actually, but it is more of like a special event thing. Like in our G1, the Dash Stadium was a surprise stadium on the top four finalists. And in the recent private tournaments, we used the Dash Stadium as a just to shake up the meta.
Mm,
But it really didn't get its time here on the official G4 from Banki because it came out during the pandemic.
yeah.
So it didn't really had its time to. We had no tournaments back then.
Mm.
So when we resumed, it was already in the DB. So it didn't really get its time in the sun.
So the next thing I wanted to ask, because here, I mean, everywhere was affected, but when the pandemic came, like 2020, yeah, 2020, it kind of just lasted through that time. Was your tournament scene ever able to like recover on like the average that comes to it? Because I know that like if you can't go to events because you have to stay safe, and, maintain your health. I'm a little bit curious, like what's like the tournament scene like for like the amount of people that go for your area?
During the pandemic,
Yeah, during the
uh,
pandemic and after.
during the pandemic, me and some I think there were eight of us. We just go
Mm,
to a secret place. Then we just I have videos of that during the pandemic. Just play sparking back then.
mm,
So that's what happened. So
yeah.
when the tournament started early around April last year, during the first time it was open, there were a lot of people. Yeah, maybe around 60 plus.
Mm,
But because the location was also in the middle part of the city, so it's accessible to most of the people. Even last week, this the same venue. We found out that on that mall in the middle of the city, it really translates to a lot more bladers than some other distant malls.
mm. I think that's it's really crazy to hear about the events that go on in Asia because like the amount of participants is way higher than like the average event here. Like the average event here is maybe at max like 20, 24, but like it's like 60. Dude, that's like that's like for a big event here. But on your side, it does it so casually. So something I'm a little bit interested in is how long do the tournaments usually run for? Like from start to
The
finish?
time,
Yeah, like.
actually, the 60 plus number was only during the when it came back because
Yeah.
people were just anxious to play.
Mm,
But I could say on the average, we're getting around. I like to say that we have two divisions: the juniors and the seniors. So the seniors is teenager and up to adult. So on the average, maybe we have around 40. That's 20 juniors, 20 seniors. But on remote malls, it's much less, like 10 juniors and 10 seniors. So I guess it's still more than the WBO tournaments.
Yeah. For the events, do they run for like 3-4 hours? Like
The events, it depends.
yeah, it depends on
So
like the
if
amount.
let's say last Sunday,
Yeah.
it starts at 2 p.m. and we were done by around 5:30, and we had 40 plus half of juniors, 20 and 20 for seniors. Open categories are so around 3 hours, something like that, 3 hours. Because it's only a single elimination though, so
Yeah.
so it's much faster.
That's a still pretty good time considering the amount. I think we're lucky here to make it around that time. Maybe by like 3 hours, we're getting to finally finals or something.
I think because you're in Toronto, right? So
Yeah.
I think compared to here, there are more distances to cover there than here. I mean, like in the US, I mean, it's so big, it's hard to really gather. And you know, Bladers are a minority. Most of the kids have been taken by Roblox, so it's really hard to, especially in the US, they live so far away, so it's really hard to get together unless it's a special event.
No, but I wanted to ask actually because this is actually an interesting thing because you mentioned a lot about stamina. I'm curious. I'm curious on how like the judging works because it's kind of a mess to see them both spin against each other, and then after you gotta be like, okay, because sometimes, okay, well now we have the solution where we don't always have to do video review. Sometimes it's just like whatever the judge says, but like for finals we have to do video review, and it's always like, okay, hold on, okay, who's who? Okay, zoom in, okay, get the 4K camera, okay, you know, like very indecisive. So I'm kind of curious on how the WBBA handles like judging spin.
Actually, I've been seeing some WBO events that judge on the LAD. I believe it's quite different. I believe the WBO uses the last movement or last wiggle at the end.
Yeah.
For us, even I initially, it took me like months to really get it. So we have a standard in judging. The more you judge and the more you experience it, you'll eventually get it. But for example, there are two opposite spin Beyblades, and nearing the end of their spin, there will be a point in time where one of them will appear to a normal layman to stop. For us, we consider that stop. And we're consistent, generally consistent in implementing that. So as long as you're consistent, in your case, if you don't follow that, you still consider that spinning. So as long as you're consistent, no problemo.
Fair. I think my memory is not brushed up on the spinning because we've been doing the new one for so long. I think I know what you mean. So like even if they're going against each other and like the other one's like it managed to go slightly more at the end, you don't count that extra point. You only okay. That makes a lot more sense because it's very hard to go over it because I feel like on the Asia region, like if a player loses, like they're more likely to just be like, okay, good game, than like because like here. Someone's gonna be like, okay, no, we need a second judge to look at this, and then after it's just reviewing. So I think what's really good is the definition, because I think consistency is important, right, when you're playing the game. Because if you have vague definitions, then after someone's gonna be like, well, the rules don't say that if I'm an inch in the stadium, I'm still in, right? So I think it's very important what you mentioned here because it's like an important thing. It's regional meta. I think each area is slightly different. I feel personally here, not everyone, obviously, not everyone, not to generalize, but I do feel like some don't want to just say I lost, so then after our finals can get extended just because of that. No, but I think it's really good to hear your opinion on this, because I think you give a very unique perspective for how players play and work on that. But, okay, on the topic of that, I'm a little curious in this. Are there times when they said you lost the match, but in the back of your head, you're like, I know I won? Or
Yeah, many
you
times.
told the judge, listen, let them win.
Many times. Actually, what I was saying earlier, on an LAD match, uh, you will learn, for us, we learn to spot the other one about to stop, and then the other one will just push it. So it will equalize again. For that case, we consider the one that pushed the winner, even though the one that got pushed had the last wiggle. So that's our definition. And what actually to eliminate those rule sharkings or complaints, we we review each LAD match. There's no way around it. But we've gotten pretty efficient with it, and I guess more or less, since we're only a small community, it's like the same players playing every weekend. So they've gotten used to the definition of our LAD, which one stop or not. But sometimes there's still complaints, especially before when when we came back from the pandemic. But now it's generally smooth. But even me, if I in one of my recent videos, there was really a close LED match, and from the naked eye, it seemed like a draw. But when you see it in the video, you can see that my opponent got a slight edge at the end. So actually, they're open for us to ask them to review. So basically, it's been judging isn't really much of a problem anymore compared to last year. It's more or less stable right now, based on our definition of who won an LED match.
Yeah,
I can understand if you don't have. It's harder for you because the lack of consistency in every weekend, and the proximity of the. So it's hard to really build an understanding and knowledge of. So I get it. I understand why there may be arguments if one player feels that he won, but I also just like to add that based on our definition of who won an LAD, it gives a different tier to drivers. I mean, I think the WBO likes the never or the moment, but if you base it in our definition, those won't win an LAD. But if you base it on your definition, when it falls down and rolls and does the last wiggle, then based on your definition, it won. But in our case, it will that's a loss. So it depends, really. Anyway, as long as you're consistent, like what I said, that's the only thing that matters anyway. So even in sports, there's no perfect system. It's all human judgment.
No, I agree completely. I think it's very hard to reach consensus here, because everyone has their own opinion on how to play Beyblade. So it's not the easiest, and I don't think it's easy at all in general, because everyone's from different places. They all have maybe I think it's this, maybe I think, and I don't think there's anything wrong with that. It's just it's hard because to give you an example here, I mean DB Stadium's a little bit different because DB's DB for KOs, but like on the standard stadium, for here, our biggest issue for like 7 years is the back wall, how we define KOs, because there's two ways the KO. There's I think it's like the WBBA way, where if you hit the back wall and you rebound in, that's still fine. You're still in the game. It's only when you like touch when you're actually out. But here it was a little bit different. So if you like on the side, like this side, because we don't. The worst part is we at this time we still don't have that defined, right? But like the side, if you come back in, okay, that counts. But if you hit the back wall, you're out, right? And the issue becomes is like before it was already kind of an issue, but we tried. But now because the bays are so big, like wind, right? Wind is so big, right? So if wind hits, wind might be touching the back wall and the side wall at the same time, right? It's just to give an example, like even for that, you would think we'd be able to reach consensus after so long, but like we still don't have the play area defined. So hearing what you talk about with like a mutual agreement on how it works and the idea of like consensus, I think is very important. And obviously too, it's like WBBA, so Takara's looking at that. Okay, guys, no funny business. Okay, it's this, not that, right? So I just wanted to give context here. No, not to like to be like, oh, that's bad, whatever. It's just it's a very unique situation here.
Yeah, I'm very familiar with that back wall issue. Shout out to my vato Shindog.
Mm-hmm.
We've discussed that issue many times.
Yeah.
I believe he's saying is because in WBBA, when judging simultaneous knockouts, it's the first one to touch the ground of the pocket. But I believe Shindog said that it isn't like that in WBO. It's the first to touch the back wall, even if the one that touched the back wall first falls to the floor later than the other one.
Yeah.
Anyway, I understand it's complicated. It's very frustrating. That I don't think it will fly here that rule, because you have to stop the in mid match just to check. I don't think it will fly here. So
yeah,
I hope that the WBO gets a resolution for that.
Hopefully. No, Shindog brought up very good points in the WBBA whenever we discussed on it. No, the worst part here too is that people complain about this rule, but also they don't help themselves, right? So what I mean by this is, right, you have to record, right? Okay, you have to record the match to see who went out first, right? So they do the worst possible, and this happened, I think, recently, where they'll record. Now, obviously, the best view of the stadium is always going to be the top view whenever you see it. Generally, it's always going to be the top view, at least on the standard, right? Because you see where it hits on the back of the pockets, right? You see that, right? But the issue is that, especially for KOs, if someone records like on the side, that's a little harder to see on the perspective. So if a bay goes on the definition of what a KO is, okay, the angle, and especially if the video quality is not there, but if the angle is really bad, I can't tell where it hit. So video angle is extremely important when judging. Like, you can have all the slow motion, right? But if the thing is like this and not like this, right? And I see it try to go, I can't tell. So no, it's very important what you say, and I mean, I hope for the future we can do it, especially like for the next hopefully the next Beyblade generation, whatever the new stadium is, just exits. I want exits. I don't want, because the pockets is like the worst thing we ever had to deal with. But I wanted to, 321's coming up. Big date. So because you've done burst for a while, and 320 is most certainly probably going to be an announcement for a new Beyblade generation. Whenever it comes out, who knows? But I'm kind of curious, since you've done burst for a while, you've done a lot of competitive with burst. What I'm curious with is kind of, what do you want to see for the fourth generation of Beyblade? Anything stadiums, maybe Beyblade designs? I'm a little curious.
Just one thing. Legalize the Shindog Stadium.
Okay, well, hopefully TOMY can... Oh, they should. Hey, listen, it's a good opportunity for the fans. Oh, I have to give context. Shindog and others worked on a project called the Shin-TA Tornado Attack. That's based on the original... well, I mean, it's inspired legally. Okay, so no lawyers are watching. It's inspired by the Tornado Attack. Very good stadium. Because it is actually a good thing you mentioned that, actually, because these stadiums are not the easiest to find here. Because obviously, because you're in the Asia region, you're closer to the source. Here, stadiums cost a lot. To get the original standard stadium, good luck. Good luck. Maybe a lucky bid, but these things like go up like this. DB Stadium not so much because the sentiment towards it is not as strong as the original stadium. But no, fair enough. So, just a few other questions to shoot off with, just because I'm curious, because you're on the competitive side. But casually, anything you like about anything Bays? Any cool gimmicks you like? Doesn't have to be effective, whatever. I'm a little curious on that because it's always fun to talk about that.
You mentioned about the fourth gen. Probably just make the base good for attack, defense, and stamina. Make it equal. Just how it's supposed to be, right?
No, fair. No, I would definitely agree with that. I think I don't think Burst gave that balance. Not fairly distributed. It depends what layer series technically, but I think generally, attack was technically the weakest at the start because there's no dash drivers at the time. So if you use attack, it was kind of risky because you could burst, which ideally, attack type should have always had the best resistance because if a stamina type has really good resistance, I'm just going to use the stamina type. And that's what happens at the start. Not that attack was bad, but no, it was at the bad spot. So no, I definitely agree with balance too. Also to mention, because you did mention the Shin TA, it's also important the ridge size of the stadium too, because that plays a lot into the game. Because if the ridge is thin compared to thick, it makes a huge difference in the game. I don't know if I can grab it because it's there, but there's the Hasbro Pro Series Stadium, and that stadium is kind of like the original standard, but it's Hasbro-fied. So I'm going to grab it real quick just so you can see. But, I just grabbed it. Okay, this is what it looks like here. This is from the Pro... I'm missing the cover on the top, but this is the Pro Series Standard Stadium, right? So it's Hasbro's. Okay, the pockets are terrible. Okay, we don't got to talk about the pockets on there. But they made a higher ridge. Higher ridge is a good and a bad thing because for the bearing drivers, a little bit easier to catch them. Right. But for attack types, it works a little bit better because the biggest worry for any attack player is if you launch it and you go out the pocket. That's that's the worst feeling. So if they have a good ridge size, that's important. So
yeah.
I want to just end off with asking this because you gave a lot of good input on, what you want to see for the next generation. You talked about some bays that you like World, because obviously World is so tough in the stadium. So just ending off for... sorry, what?
It's a default bay you need to survive in the competitive scene. As you know, like you said, the attack types are not viable in Burst. So we grew up as stamina users. So as a long-time stamina users, I recently tried attack and it's good. But I see now the DB Stadium. So I have to go back to stamina. So that it is what it is.
Right. So for viewers wondering, for the rest of the year for 2023, what can viewers get to see from the PapaBeyShow for this year? Do you have any plans that you want to share? And just ending off, if you want to plug anything, the floor is yours.
Just more tournament videos, especially when the new gen comes, whatever, if it comes right away or not. Just more tournament videos. I don't really have the time to do the testing videos anymore. And the tournaments are actually a better gauge of the performance of combos. Okay. So I would just like to do a shout out to two of the VTubers that I know in the Philippines. That's the Ramski Kiram channel and the 2022 Zankye Undisputed Senior Division Champion of the World, Dex D Burst Repardas. Shout out to those VTubers. And go ahead.
No. That's good.
Okay.
If you give me the links, I'll try to put them in the description. So if people want to check them out, that they can. If they have any YouTube that they want plugged.
I have one question for you, Zankye.
Oh, go for it.
So who's the current champion of the WBO right now?
Like number one.
The number one rank?
Actually, I have to see. Even I don't know. I think it shifted. Actually, hold on. Okay, we're gonna get this.
Justin TC.
Okay, from Toronto, Canada, because he did really well in the Anime North. Your number one Canadian ranked blader is Justin TC. Then after it's K. Then after it's Hemwuja. But hey, our top three, no, not even top three, top four Canadian representatives. So all I'm saying is, we got it pretty good here.
No, is there no overall number one?
Yeah. So for how it works for the rankings for Burst, they basically add up from all the way to the start to this point. So like from single layers till now. So like for Justin, right, he has like 170 wins and 65 losses, right? So that's how like they scale it up. I know what you mean. Our rankings are a little bit different. I would prefer if it's like reset yearly, because it more accurately represents, because some players aren't as active anymore. I wanted he wants the reset too, but no, that's basically how it is for Burst. No, the rankings are fun. I always look at it as like a neat thing, it's a fun match to do, because you gotta take it like serious, like the anime, and now try to have fun.
So who's the consensus number one right now?
Like that's active.
Yeah, active.
Okay, that's active. Okay, so that's a little bit different. So Justin's I don't think is as active anymore, and K is currently not active. So I guess technically it would be Henwuja. That's technically number one that's active. And that's in Canada, in my area.
So Henwuja, right?
Henwuja, yeah. That's very good. He's number three overall, but for active, he's technically number one because no one else is active.
So the number one and two are not active anymore? Okay,
K is in Japan right now, so he can't be active. And I don't. Justin sometimes goes to events. So he's kind of active, but doesn't like. Yeah, no, you could say Justin. I'm not too sure if he's attending the more recent ones, but it's not that or Hemwuja, but no, that's that. No, we got the top 15. Like we got a lot of good Canadian reps, so I'm happy because I get to get represented.
Okay, I'll just consider Henwuja as the champion, the WBO champion right now.
Henwuja won.
I have a message for your champion, okay?
Okay, go for it.
Henwuja, you're the champion right now of the WBO, and you're looking at the WBBA Tag Team Champion of the World. So Henwuja, say your prayers and drink your vitamins, and come at the Beyblade World Cup. PapaBey will be seeing you right there.
You're gonna go to the World Cup? You're gonna try to
Breaking
attend?
news, exclusively on the ZankCast. Breaking news. Do you think your champion Henwuja can beat PapaBey in Burst?
Listen.
It doesn't matter what you think. The only thing that matters is PapaBey will stomp a mud hole on your champion, and he'll wish he'd stayed on the amateur circuit.
All right, if you want to check out PapaBeyShow, link in the description below for his YouTube channel. Please go show him some love. He does a lot of good tournament event compilations. Link in the description below. I want to thank our guest today, PapaBey, for being so gracious for their time to be able to talk about the WBBA, for giving a lot of entertainment today. And that's going to be it for now. So thanks for watching. Have an amazing day. Bye.
One more thing.
Oh, go for it.
I'm not done with you, Henwuja. When PapaBey is done with you, Henwuja, you will never, ever be the same.
Okay, thanks.
Game. appreciate you inviting me, Zankye. Thank you.
No worries.